Everyone, Papercut here with another video strategy breakdown about Order of the Dragon, one of the civs I deeply love. Ever since Order of the Dragon was released, I don't know, I love it. It's now one of the most played civs on my roster. Every time I try other civs, I eventually want to play an Order of the Dragon game. I don't know. I think it's a fun civ. I think it's very unique compared to the others, but unfortunately it's been considered bad, by the pros at least, since it's been released. But recently, in the recent KPMM, once again, shout out to KP, great series, Order of the Dragon won some games. And not like water matches, because like in previous tournaments, Order of the Dragon was played as a water civ because of the Aka. But no, they were winning on land maps. They were winning with interesting strategies. And I've seen myself have a lot of success, especially on this map pool. I think this map pool really favors Order of the Dragon. I want to talk about why. So is Order of the Dragon officially good? Let's find out. So as always, please like and subscribe. It helps immensely for a channel my size, and comment as well. You can comment something silly too. It doesn't have to be, you know, important. Check out my Patreon where I have extra content, live lessons in AoE 4. Just did a lesson on breaking down the feudal all-in, and I posted that on my YouTube. If you want to see an example of a live lesson, my next lesson is going to be on Dark Age, both how to Dark Age rush and how to defend against a Dark Age rush. And I will have weekly lessons and other content, so check that out. If you're looking for personalized coaching, message me on Discord. And all that stuff is in the description below the video. So go ahead and check that out if you're interested. Or you can just join my coaching Discord for free and ask questions, and there's a lot of great people on there who are willing to help you. All right, so context of OTD. Released bad? So when OTD first came out, it was considered the worst civ on release. People thought it was real weird. It was HRE without buffing. It seemed slow. It seemed like their units, while they seemed strong, weren't actually that good. And so it was generally considered bad. But even on release, OTD had pretty good win percentages in lower leagues. And we'll talk about why in a second. So then OTD's gotten buffed since then. Their Akin's gotten buffed. Some of their different units have been buffed in small ways. And people have experimented with them more and more and more and more. Especially me. Because I love them and I keep trying to make them work. And there have been times where I've lost like 7 games in a row of OTD. And it's like, man, this civ sucks. But when I watch people play them on the ladder, like high level ladder, like Conk 3 and above, it's crazy the things they'll do to win. And I think what can make OTD difficult at the top level is that you can't just have a go-to strat. You have to kind of change depending on the map and the opponent, more so than like China, which can always do pro scouts right now, or Rus, which can also always do pro scouts, you know, or Byzantine that will always go multi-sister and things like that. So yeah, so win rates. For the longest time, OTD at the top level was considered bad. It had bad win rates. Pros did not use them in tournaments. Pros considered them bad. But for the average player, they often have had one of the highest win rates. Now, why is that? Part of the reason is OTD. What makes it weak is what pros are good at. So OTD requires you to change your comp quickly. It's all about counters. Their units hit their counters harder, but thus, since they're more expensive, if they're countered, it's way worse for them. So pros are really good at reading comp switches early, immediately switching their own comp. OTD is also very, it can lose its tempo very fast. So if it needs food really badly, everything is so food expensive for them. So if you kill Vils, that's a much bigger deal than other civs. If you raid them off food, it's much harder for them to recover from that. And then in Imperial, where if you're both at 130 Vils, yes, it's a good eco for OTD, but they can have far less units than every other civ. So if you're doing these wave after waves, it feels like OTD just gets overrun. So now that's not as big an issue for lower leagues, but for pros, it was a really big deal. And what I have felt is that OTD can be very good. And I've always felt like there's definitely some strategies they can do well in, but boy, if you force strategies, you will have some bad times. So you have to feel out what's good versus what's civ, though I do think there are now in this current meta, in this current map pool, some strategies that can work no matter what. But then recently, to my delight, in the most recent KPMM, Anatan and B both won using Order of the Dragon in ways that I think really show what makes Order of the Dragon shine. So we're going to get into those two replays here in a second. What does OTD have going for them? Well, they have a few things going for them. First, their feudal men-at-arms are really tanky. A classic OTD strategy is the feudal men-at-arm rush, which is actually something that Anatan uses in his game. The need to counter. So if your opponent is slow to make counters and you show up with this death ball of a big army and they don't have the counters to that, you'll just walk over them. Their ranged mass is extremely good. Their archers shoot every second, and in castle they have an upgrade that makes them basically ranged killers. Like their armor is so high, other ranged units don't hurt them, and their crossbows have super high damage against heavy units, and they have good base damage anyway, so they slay basically everything. So like building a ranged mass is just really, really good for OTD and can often win you the game. Their eco on hunted food's amazing since they don't have the HRE prelate buff. It's like all of their vills are buffed all the time now. Like their increased stats make it so while they have less vills and take longer to make, they're all buffed wherever they go. So 5 vills on deer or 5 vills on boar with a tower is really, really good food eco. They gather it so fast that if they get on hunted food, their eco is out of control. On top of that, the eco around the Akin, while the Akin and the Minework are both kind of used interchangeably, I love the Akin in the sense that if you're planning on playing a longer game, the farms on the Akin are amazing. Like OTD with farms on the Akin and Feudal is the best farming economy of any Feudal Civ. It's crazy. Tempo or 2TC. So if OTD can pick up tempo in the game, it's very hard to slow them down. Like if you're putting your opponent on their back foot, if you're pushing them and in their base and they're falling behind, it's really hard for them to get back in. I think OTD also has a really strong 2TC. It's one of my favorite strategies with them. I love doing 2TC OTD, and the map pool this season really helps me on that. So we're gonna get into that in a second. So how does a map pool? That is the map pool favor OTD. First, it gives them maps with a lot of close opening deer. So if OTD starting on cheap like any other civ, they have a slight advantage, but if they're able to get on deer easily, boy, it is huge for them. Altai, Hill and Dale, Sunken Lands, Carmel, and Line Horizon all have deer packs that are in predictable spots close to the starting TC where they can immediately get food. Carmel, there's a boar in the short corner that's always in the same spot, and you can take that boar without hurting your age up too much, and then you have so much food. And you can just, your tempo is just based off that amount of food you're getting, because then you can make horsemen really well and things like that. And so all those maps have close opening deer, which is really, really nice. And then there's also a lot of maps that are safer and can allow a second TC that is hard to push. So Altai, Hillendale, and Line Horizon, all you can 2TC pretty easily for the Dragon without facing a lot of pressure and gives you time to defend. My go-to Hillendale strategy is 2TC OTD. I love it. I feel like I rarely lose doing it because OTD has so much going for him. We'll talk about when I go over the strategies here. So my 2TC strategy, big thing on it is I do Akin instead of Minework, because my big deal is that I don't really need the upgrades. I'm going to win based off eco. Because here's the thing, if all my vills are buffed, but I have the same amount of vills of you, then my eco is going to be tremendously better than yours. And I want that Akin because I'm probably going to have to make farms. And so I don't want my eco to be slowed because of going Minework. So your goal is always to try to put a 2TC on deer, which once again, Altai, Hill and Dale, allow that really, really easily. Line Horizon 2 allow you to put a second TC on deer very easily, and that gives you so much food. Now, if your opponent is trying to push you can just make units, of course. Spear Archer is very, very strong. You can make a couple horsemen to harass. If they go mass range, your horsemen do so much extra damage against range. I think a horseman usually kills an archer in 3 hits. It's wild. And if you're on deer, you actually have the food to afford horsemen. So horsemen can do great reinforcement line harassment. They can do great eco at your opponent's base harassment. And if you get a massive archers, it's extremely hard for them to push because of your emergency repairs. You then go Castle into Burgrave. I never really go Akin. I'm not Akin, I mean Regnance as Order of the Dragon. I just don't. In fact, I don't like fast castling as Order of the Dragon in general, with the goal of doing a Regnance strategy. I think if you play Order of the Dragon like HRE, you're playing them wrong. It's just not, it doesn't have the same synergy as HRE does doing that. So instead, I like doing Burgrave almost always because the cheap men-at-arms are important. Even if they make crossbows, your men-at-arms are such a tanky frontline, especially as they get to Imp, that even if they're getting hard countered, it's just so important to have them. And the Burgrave makes them so cheap, you can make them really quick, and then you can focus the rest of your resources on either mass ranged, which I said is really good, or if your opponent is doing something that horseman counter, you can flip into horseman as well, and the Burgrave just gives you a really solid, continuous frontline. So you go mass spear or mass MMA with mass ranged or horseman, depending on what you need. Lastly, if you're pushing, you just hold, and eventually if your eco gets set up, you just push them back and you just wave after wave. And in order to OTD, there's like this tipping point where you build an army so big it can't really die, especially if you get prelates from a monastery with the military upgrade, which like boosts armor and health and damage. It's really worth it because OTD your army is never that big. Like it's never huge, and so prelates can actually buff your entire army, like 2 or 3 of them, and it's very worth it. Makes your army very strong. And then you just push and win. And so if they try to fast castle, I'm like, good, take the relics. I don't care. I'm just going to make a big army and push you as you're trying to transition onto farms or something. If they all in you, great. I'm just going to defend my 2 TCs, make range units, make some spears. I'll be fine. If they go 2 TC themselves, great. I think my 2 TC is better. I think the 2 TC, I know I haven't done the numbers, but I think the 2 TC for OTD pays off faster than any other 2 TC because your villagers are gathering so much more. So now we're going to watch the 2 games that inspired this video, B's Horseman Harass and Anatan's Men at Arms Fast Castle. What we're watching for is 1, the use of the food to tempo their attack and to really keep their opponent on their toes. How the map size helps them. In both cases, in both maps, it's quick to get to the opponent, so the opponent feels in danger of the OTD units at all times. The use of tanky units to slow down the opponent, hurt their economy, make them overreact. And lastly, how range mass and a timely comp switch in both games really sets the tempo. Because once again, if you're able to do a mass comp switch as OTD without your opponent knowing, and then you walk in with that comp switch, you can just wipe your opponent because they don't have the counter units, and OTD is all about counters. So let's head into the games and check them out. All right, 2 things that we enter this game. 1, I know I misspelled Anatan's name. I'm very sorry, Anatan, if you see this. I want to put 2 N's in your name for some reason. Apologies. 2, for some reason, their replay file is corrupted. I think maybe because it's a custom map, it might do this. But basically, when you watch the replay, even though it says it's open, their villagers don't move. Like, it says things are happening, but nothing is moving on the screen. So there's definitely some replay glitch. But I wanted to show what Front Range looks like to give you an example. Front Range has a close, because it's a custom map for tournaments. Front Range has a close deer pack like Sunken Lands, and then one that's always in the same spot, 5 deer pack. It has very few sheep as well, so you have to kind of go on the map. The boars are in the center, so if you're pushing while fighting, you're basically defending the boar while pushing. And then lastly, you're relatively close to your opponent, so slow units like Men at Arms can get there fairly quickly while the map is wide. And so what Anatan does is that he opens an initial... Gosh, you can watch KP's VOD for this, but basically the overall idea was he opens a barracks to then make a Men at Arms. He makes like a couple Men at Arms, and he goes mine work. And then with those, he just raids and harass, and he's forcing Wham to make a lot of units. He goes out on the deer, vacuums it, and while he's in the deer, he rushes Burgrave. Wham tries to counter push because he just aged up, but then Anatan's able to just mass units and keep pushing. The game goes all the way to Imperial, and Anatan ends up winning just because he takes the boars and he never leaves the central spot. But like that initial Men at Arms, getting there so quickly slows Wham so much. And because of that, Wham is then unable to really ever get a solid foothold. Anatan just keeps massing this really strong Order of the Dragon army where he goes mass Men at Arms and crossbows, and then he goes into mass horsemen to raid and fight. And then he goes into mass crossbows with spears, and then he does the classic, he just goes mass Imperial archers and holds the sacred sites, and Wham can't push it because the archers are too good. But if you really want to see an example of that, I'm sorry the replay's not working, but check KP's VOD of it. It was Wham versus Anatan. It was the grand finals of this week's KPMM. Very good. Now, B versus Recon is really interesting because when I've seen Order of the Dragon played on Frisian Marches, I've seen them do 2 TC. The classic, you use hold, you just make farms, you just mass, and then you win. So what B does is really interesting because it's still going to be a food base, as I was talking about, like, can he get extra food for Order of the Dragon, power that machine? And how can he abuse Horsemen, which B loves Horsemen. B loves Horsemen, I feel like, more than any other unit. He loves the ability to raid, he loves the ability to keep the opponent stuck in their base because there's that threat of Horsemen at all times. Now, what's unique about Frisian Marches is that while there's a lot of sheep early, so you have good food there, but you have these pawns. Some people never touch the pawns, some people love going to the pawns. But what's interesting is that B is going to go super heavy on these pawns, and that's going to give him so much food to then power his units. So let's just watch. He's going to go super heavy on wood early, and he's going to start taking every pawn down the line. Recon, on the other hand, is not going to go pawns. He just wants to do a fast age up. Goes early wheelbarrow into feudal age up. B now has... He just keeps 4 on wood, and he's just going to keep making boats. He'll make like 3 or 4 fishing boats per pond, and he loves shoreline fishing with a dock. He's really into it, and he's really good about making sure he doesn't, block a shoreline fish by a bad dock placement. So once he gets 4 fishing boats out, he then rushes gold, and now he's going to age up. He's used, basically, he exhausted all of the straggler trees around his main base. Ages up with Aachen on the wood. This is critical because he needs a lot of wood. He needs a lot of wood to make production, to make farms, and then to keep making these boats and these docks. So this Aachen's really important to him. Recon's also aging up, and even though... So with Recon going early wheelbarrow, that delayed his age up. B's was delayed by the dock, but B can also rush his age up because OTD villagers build faster than the average vill. So with Recon agent before villagers, if B ages up with 5 as he's doing, it's really, really fast. See, look how fast that's going. I mean, it's 4 times speed, but still. He's not going to be far behind him. He even pulls even more because he doesn't want to build a lumber mill. So once the vill that's gathering wood has to stop, it's going to go around to the Aachen, and then he's going to get that age up going. Now, he realizes, of course, that he can't defend his gold. He's not going to have units early, so he's going to go off of gold onto food and wood. Let's watch from his perspective here. He needs to tag. By tag, I mean locate and know and maybe like alert the first night coming through because his wood line's going to be really exposed. Now, a lot of people would open barracks for spears. Not B. He opened stable. Now, once again, he's kind of flexing the Order of the Dragon power here. A Order of the Dragon horseman costs the same as a feudal knight. Has more health, but less damage and armor. But that means a horseman can relatively duel with a feudal knight, and he's going to drop 2 stables. He has about 400 food a minute coming in, and he has docks, and Recon sees the docks. So Recon realizes, okay, there's these docks here. In fact, instead of diving his very exposed wood line, he kind of goes by the dock first, and it seems like he doesn't quite know what he wants to do at first blush. Now, what this horseman does mean, though, is that if Recon dives and takes a lot of damage on his horseman, on his knight, B's horseman can just chase down the knight and win. Like, that's a legitimate threat. So that's why I think it is interesting he's opening horseman, because that means that if he takes too much damage on the knight, the horseman will win. And since he's going double stable, he now has 2 horsemen, each do 15 damage with 250 health. Where's Recon's knight here? 190 health, but 3 melee armor and 19 damage, so, you know, plays off. But the thing that B, I think, is also smart about is that he knows that French doesn't want to make spears. Now, if he goes heavy on a horseman, though, Recon will be forced to make spears, just literally to defend his resources at home. He doesn't want to have to keep his knights at home to defend. So Recon is going to open barracks, which is a key part to B's plan here. So I just had someone leave my house. So B is, and we have a little alert that says door open every time someone leaves. So he's already dropped the 3rd dock and then the 4th, the 2nd and the 3rd. I think it's interesting he skips these 2 pawns because I think the idea is that he knows Recon saw him on this one. And if Recon checks again and then comes to this pawn, Recon's going to assume B's not dropping any more pawns or he's not dropping any more docks. He's going to go, oh, okay, B's done with that. He knows I saw it. He's not going to focus on it anymore. But by skipping down to the next pawns, there's a chance Recon never looks at. I don't think Recon ever knows until it's too late about this fishing. Oops, did not mean to flip. Like, for example, let's look at Recon's vision here. Yeah, he hasn't actually spotted them. He's scouted down there, but he hasn't actually spotted them, I think. So here's the thing. What's interesting is this entire time, Recon has a lot of knights. And if he dove, it would probably go well for him. But the threat of these horsemen keeps making Recon play a little scared. But he's always going to keep a group of horsemen at home so that if Recon does dive, this horseman can like take hits and chase away. Recon considers it. He sees the horseman and goes, no. And I think another thing that people fear is that if you don't see the OTD spearmen and then they get your knights, that's a lot of damage. OTD spearmen do like 40 damage per hit against Cav. But that means this entire time B is getting to boom. It's like he's doing a second and 3rd TC. So he's got 3 boats on this one, 3 boats down here, and his food is now getting better and better and better. At the same time, the sheep give him a lot of extra food as well, and he can start adding farms when he needs to. He's just massing and massing horsemen, and he really wants Recon to go, crap, I need spearmen. I need spearmen. And he's not going to make archers. Why make archers when you're seeing pure horsemen? So right now, Recon's at 15 units, which is all spears and knights. So these spears are guarding the boar in the middle. Smart take from Recon. But every time B appears, Recon's going to not want to push. At the same time, Recon's going to run out of sheep. He has he has berries and he has boar, but these horsemen are going to make him hesitant to go on to these pawns with his vills, and that's what B, I think, is considering as well. If he knows his opponent has to go wide, and he's trying to catch him the moment that he goes wide with his villagers, while his food is very secure on these pawns. So watch what happens. He peers, he gets a good hit, he's chasing the vills. Horsemen are super tanky, and so he can get away. He has more horsemen coming, he's getting wheelbarrow. Villagers are now dropping docks on Recon's pawns, which is going to be even more food. And when he's chased away, the OTD horsemen are so strong that he can kind of do what knights do, where if the spearmen get caught out on their own, he can turn and snipe spearmen really easily. He now has 8 horsemen. Yeah, 8 horsemen, which is a lot of OTD horsemen. And he still hasn't shown the switch yet. When he switches comp, he's gonna make sure he does it quickly so that it doesn't get sniffed out and counter comped. That's like the key thing about Order of the Dragon here. So he's still forcing these horsemen. The knights aren't raiding, they're chasing, because the threat of the horsemen is so important. Even when they do come and threaten, they don't actually go for it. Because once again, and I feel like this is a case at a lot of the pro level, the pros give each other a lot of grace, or a lot of respect, I guess I should say. It's like, man, no way B would leave his base completely unguarded for me to raid. I'm not going to try it. There's a trick here. We saw this in a lot of the KPM games this week, where it's like people who could have been pushed pretty easily, the opponent just went, I don't know about that, because there's this legitimate fear that if you lose your army, you lose the game. So, like, I mean, look what Recon has. Recon has mass spears, which are a great counter. He has a lot of knights. B has 23 units, which is almost completely horsemen. Recon has 23 units, which is all knights and spearmen, all things that are good into horsemen. All he has to do is push, but the threat of the horsemen and how strong they are for OTD keeps him scared. And now we have B making our switch. He's dropped 2 archery ranges and starts mass reducing archers. Keep that in mind. He drops 2 archery ranges immediately. He's going to drop more in a second. He's not doing a slow transition. He's trying to mass transition to archers, which is also smart because while he is getting a lot of food, his sheep are starting to run out. So he is going to be pretty heavy on wood here in a second. And archers are very wood efficient. And he makes them every 18 seconds. So he does want lots of production. And while Recon spearmen are going to push the gold here, this entire time, B hasn't needed gold. And look how much Recon has to dedicate to chasing B around. You know, he goes to try to kill the dock. I mean, he's almost got all the fish anyway, so it doesn't matter. These horsemen can take a hit and run away and be completely fine. If the knights are chasing the horsemen, they're not diving his base, which is the thing he cares about the most. Archers push away the spears. He's still just making archers, making horsemen. You see, he's just rallying on. He has 32 on wood right now. His wood income is 877 a minute. He has 930 food a minute because of these docks, which will dry up at some point. The shoreline fishing will disappear. But for now, really, really good food. B's kind of on the clock here where he needs to win by the time the fishing runs out. But once again, Recon has no idea B's up here. Just taking these docks. Goes and checks again, and lo and behold, he finds a spearman, easy snipe, and now I think he suspects that, yes, Recon is on the eco up here somewhere. At home, once again, Recon tries to raid, but like three boats can hide in a dock. He's already actually taken all the fish, and at home, he's starting to add farms. We still just got archers coming, lots and lots of archers. At this point, B has 43 units, Recon has 30. Because Recon is struggling on food. B has made this bet. He's like, sure, you can have boar, but once you run out of sheep and you run through your berries and you're too scared to go on, to go out onto these ponds because of my very scary OTD horsemen, you're gonna fall behind on unit production, which he is. He's struggling to match B's unit production, and this entire time B is using the food to really bolster this strong OTD army. Because if they were on equal food, B would struggle to make this horseman mass that is this threatening. Like, that's kind of the key of OTD. If you can get an early food spike, you can make this a threatening army that gives you a lot of advantage. If he was just trying to do sheep opening, he would not have the ability to do this. You notice anytime he catches, look at this. That's like 6 spears that he's just going to wipe here. Anytime he catches a group like this, the OTD horsemen are tanky enough to fight spears head on if there's not an overwhelming mass of them. Like if there's not a spear per horseman, and even then you kind of need like a spear 0.5 per horseman when you're getting to this many, because then as they start killing spears, they're going to focus fire on different spears, and Recon can't push. He has to chase these horsemen, because look, his villagers are trying to get on deer, they're trying to get on shoreline fish, because his food is in a really bad position, and this entire time B is still adding farms. Now you can go back on gold without fear. He knows that Recon is nowhere near pushing him because he has to chase these horsemen. And now he's also built on another dock down here. Keep in mind, B's done this without really any eco upgrades except for wheelbarrow. Gets another Vill. Still just being chased. Still just being chased. And now, at this point, he has 18 archers. 18 archers. It's a lot of archers. Each archer does 6 damage, shoots every second, and has 5.5 tile range. And they do +6 against spears. So they do 12 damage a pop against these spears, which Recon now has a lot of spears. A lot of spears. Look how much he has to dedicate just to make sure he can get this boar without accidentally like being raided by... Look how many towers he has to drop. Like, Recon has to invest so many resources into protecting his eco because of the threat of the horsemen. Towers aren't that expensive, 100 each, but like that's wood that could have been something else, another production building, more military, things like that, that is now going into these defensive structures because of the threat of a horseman. I know I'm kind of talking myself in circles here, but it's really crazy. Every time the knights show up, whoop, see you later. Whoop, see you later. And Recon has to chase again. And at home, what does B do? He finally makes the all-important switch. He's like, okay, I have forced my opponent into a lot of knights and a lot of spears. He has no archers. None. No archers. I can now add spearmen, and if he gets a critical mass of like 10 or more spearmen, he will just walk over Recon. So he's going to add 3 barracks. He's adding 2. He's going to add a third one in a second. And now he's going to switch in just pumping spearmen, as well as with horsemen and archers. Go, 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 go. Once again, he doesn't kill any vills, but he's delaying them. This Recon's entire army is chasing the horsemen right now. And every time, he just sends out more horsemen. Keeps being annoying. Get the 3rd barracks down. Keeps adding spearmen. Anytime he thinks... And here's the thing. If Recon push, I still... Even without a spearman, I think Recon would really struggle because 23 archers is nothing. OTD archers is nothing to sniff at. Like, that's pretty good. And if he doesn't actually wipe the army, B's going to be right back at his base. Another raid here. Because every time Recon moves into the center, B knows he can circle back around and do this dive here. Splits off the horsemen, forces all his vills to hide, so all his vills aren't gathering right now. He's just going to run to the boar again. He's basically doing this loop every time. He knows Recon is going to run to the center to catch him. He'll go back home, circle back around. Super annoying. And this entire time, he's just mass-producing spearmen. Look at the unit numbers. He's at 104 military, while Recon is at 49. And it's all because he used that food early to boom. And Recon never knew. Like, he was just taking every pawn back here. Now the archers come out. The spears come out. And B's army is 15 spearmen, 22 archers, 13 horsemen. And watch what happens on this fight here. And he knows. He's like, I have way more than Recon. I'm going to push in. It's going to be GG. First he goes to the Borks. He knows a bunch of villagers there. And look, his army gets caught out. Like, this is actually really nice. The knights are going to get right on the archers. But wait, what is that? 16 spearmen. Well, that's fine. Recon has, you know, 30 knights. 32 knights coming in. Like, 30 knights should beat 16 spearmen, right? Buddy? Those are OTD spearmen. And they got a little cut to their jib, if you know what I mean. Watch this fight. And since he has no archers to kill these spears are just destroying these knights. These archers are doing pretty good as well. He has the +1 armor. So they're doing 3 damage a pop. And Recon goes, whoa, that is way more military than I thought. He has nothing to counter the spears. These spears are basically now free. So he's going to do what is the best idea for him, which is to try to run back towards B's base to raid, since he knows there's no one there. And B's like, that's fine. My spears will chase you, but my archers can now run into your base unimpeded. His horsemen can burn these towers down and kill these vills. And now his archers just get to run in and kill everything because there's no knights here. And then he's going to catch him and kill him. And it's game over. So I hope you guys find that interesting. I'm sorry that the Anatan game was busted, but it's really interesting if you want to check that one out. But I think OTD's having a moment. Give them a try on the ladder. The Men-at-Arms Rush, the 2 TC are both, I think, very good. You just gotta protect your units, make your counters, and boy, is OTD feeling good right now. So hope you enjoy. Let me know if you have any feedback, and good luck on your games.